Ah, we're doing it. Okay, this is it. Let's go. Ah! First video! Woo! Hey, what's up? I'm Josh Saleh, and I thought I'd make my first ever board game review and how-to video. Why should you watch this video? Well, let me give you a couple, my resume. I love board games. As you can see, I own tons of board games. I would own more, but space is kind of limited, and it's been hard to get friends and family together during the pandemic, as we all know. I guess I'm funny. And also, I've been playing board games since I was a little kid, trying to trade in Monopoly with my mom, because she just will never trade with me. So the game never ends. Yes, I have not let that go. I have a nice smile, I'm charming. I work in the video game industry. I work as a host for many different awesome companies. I can get to interview game developers. And I know video games and board games are a little different, but they're still intertwined in terms of games and entertainment. Why not? Maybe you smoked a bowl and you scroll through YouTube and you're like, who's this guy? Maybe you followed this video because you're Jewish and you want to know why a Jew is doing Secret Hitler. The first game on his review. Not only is it controversial because of the word Hitler on it, that's actually the reason why it's controversial, because of the name Hitler inside of this game. Bruh. No, well, the first game I'm gonna do is Secret Hitler, because it's one of my favorite party games in the world, and it's really fun if you get a bunch of people together. 10 people makes it one of the best games, in my opinion, out there. The title is gonna scare a lot of people off, and you see that, you're not gonna be like, oh, I should buy that for my family, especially if you're Jewish. But I don't listen very well. Came out in 2016 from Kickstarter, got funded that way. You can get it on their website below. You can also download it for free on that website below and print it out yourself, which not only saves you money, but it's also really cool and shows the developers really think about the players, which is cool. So the game's tagline, a social deduction game for 5 to 10 players about finding and stopping the secret Hitler. All about lying, deceit, and hiding yourself so the other team and the other players don't know who you are. They recommend ages 17 and up, about 20 to 45 minutes a game. Now, the more players you have, the longer it's gonna be, but I've had games that are incredibly fast because people just are not good at lying, or someone's really good at sniffing the liar out. So it really depends on the people you're playing with. That makes it great to bring with families and friends, and one of those party games that you can set up really fast and then get into it. Now, the designer is Mike Boxleiter, sorry if I mispronounced that, Tommy Merengues, and the artist is Mackenzie Schubert. Let's get into it, right? So the board game right off the bat, amazing artwork. I love this. The artwork is really incredible. I think they did a really good job. The boards, and this is where you really see that artwork shine. You can just see there's multiple different sides of the board depending on how many players you're playing with. You can see the fascist side is red, the liberal side is blue. Next up will be the president plaque and the chancellor plaque. Now, I really love how they made these out of wood. It's really incredible to see the craftsmanship of this, and the rules are also behind it. So in case you forget how to play the game, they're right there behind it as well. Your envelopes and your roll cards, much like Werewolf, if you're playing One Night at Werewolf, you know you get your cards and you want to keep them hidden from people so you don't know what they are. So they are in envelopes. One of the biggest things you want to make sure of is make sure to keep these envelopes not damaged at all. No rips, no stains, because then when people start playing this more often, they'll go, oh, I know what that card is because that envelope is ripped and I know what the ripped envelope holds. Little wooden piece. And again, everything is very well made. 2 cards, discard and draw pile. And then these really awesome thick cardboard pieces that show liberal and fascist card. So that's everything you have in the board. That's Secret Hitler right there for you. I'd rate this about a 2 out of 5 on the difficulty on how to play. Now, the first game you play is gonna be a slow understanding of it. People are gonna make mistakes, probably for the first 5 games, and that's okay. That's the best way to learn, in my opinion. Try something out, push a button, see what happens. Each board is based on how many players you play with. So for example, this fascist board says 9 to 10 players. This fascist board says 5 or 6 players. Liberal and fascist, it doesn't matter which is on top, which is on bottom, whichever is easier for your team to see. You take your discard pile, put it where it shows discard pile, you put your draw pile where you put draw pile. You shuffle your fascist and liberal policy deck. The exact number of policy tiles in here are 6 liberal and 11 fascist. It's going to be often that fascist cards get pulled more. So you want to keep that in mind in terms of who might be lying and who might be telling the truth. And you put it right on the draw pile. So just like that, you have your liberal and your fascist and your draw. I'm doing for this one 9 to 10 players because I think it's best with 9 to 10 players, and that has the most rule configurations. So as you work down for, let's say, 5 to 6 players, you'll know what rules have already been implemented for the higher number of players. You're gonna take the wooden piece, the little circle piece, and you're gonna put it on the 0 track of the liberal side. It's called the election tracker. We're gonna play with all 10. you have in here liberal and fascist cards. Now, if you're playing with 10 players, 6 liberal cards are going to be in here, and 3 fascists and 1 Hitler is going to be in here. So technically that's 4 fascists and 6 liberals. Now, what these deck cards look like in the envelope, which I think is really cool, you have your liberal secret role, and your party membership, which will tell you liberal, and a yes or a no card. Now we'll show you what a Hitler card, what a fascist card looks like. Fascist, fascist, and then again, yes and no cards. We have completely put out all of the envelopes. Again, 6 liberals, 4 fascists, 3 fascists, 1 Hitler, who also counts as a fascist. You want to take your yes and no card out of the envelope. Everyone looks at their party role and member card. Keep your liberal party card and your secret role card inside your envelope. You don't want anyone to see this. A little sneaky peek, close to the chest, away from everyone, make sure no one's looking. Put it back in the envelope and just keep that in front of you. Now the lying begins. It's very easy for people to snicker, make emotion, so I like to do no emotion when you're looking at your party membership card, because a lot of people don't like playing fascists. People prefer playing liberals because they don't want to lie in the game. So you can see people when they look at it, they go, oh man, no, I didn't want that. And obviously you can use that to your advantage, but it's just better that way when you don't have that rule, because the friends you play with, you know your friends, you know kind of how they want to play, who they want to play as, and it's better with no emotion. Everyone's gonna do this, even with 9 to 10 players. You're gonna all close your eyes. Everyone closes their eyes, no peeking, obviously. For 5 to 6 players, fascists and Hitler are going to open their eyes so they know who each other are, which is gonna help them because they're playing at a disadvantage. For 7 to 10 players, you extend your hand, fist in front of you. All fascists who are not Hitler should open their eyes and acknowledge each other. So Hitler remains their eyes closed, liberal remains their eyes closed, all fascists open their eyes. The fascists know who they are except for Hitler. Hitler will keep their eyes closed and put their thumb up. So that way the fascists know who they need to protect, who they need to save. Hitler puts their finger down, their thumb down, everyone closes their eyes, then everyone opens their eyes. So 7 to 10 person game, again, we're playing with 10 people. The fascists know who they are, they know who Hitler is, Hitler does not know who their team is, and the liberals know nothing. So choose someone to be president. You can choose someone at random the first game. That goes in front of them. President has the chancellor piece as well, because the president is going to choose who they want the chancellor to be. It can be anybody on the board. Choose it to somebody. I would like to elect this person to be chancellor. Everyone starts bickering. Wait, why? Why this person? What's the reason? You can answer however you will. You can choose not to answer. You can choose not to have a discussion at all. First placement of the chancellor is kind of up in the air on, you don't really know anything. Everyone votes. Everyone takes their yes and no card out and they vote. You go 3, 2, 1, vote. Everyone shows either a yes if they agree with the vote or a no if they don't agree with the vote. So the first person who's president chooses who's chancellor. We all vote yes, or let's say more yeses than no's. Now we begin the election phase or the policy phase. The president chooses 3 policy cards at the top of the policy deck. They don't want to show any emotion right here because it's very easy. Because look at the 3 that I just chose. I just chose 3 fascist cards. Probability-wise, that makes sense because of how many cards are in there. You discard one in the discard pile. Again, you're not showing anybody. You take the 2 cards, you give them to the chancellor. The chancellor then looks at the 2 cards that you just gave them. Again, no emotion. Discards one and places one on the board. Now, it's a fascist card, so a fascist goes down. And then this is where the excitement, the bickering, the arguing comes in. Everyone goes, wait, what? Why did you choose that? Why did you put a fascist card down? What's going on? As the president, I wanted to say, hey, I got 3 fascist cards. It's what came up on the deck. The chancellor could lie. No, that can't be true. Or maybe it is true, however you want to agree with them or disagree. The president can even say, I drew a liberal and a fascist card. The chancellor discarded the liberal card. This is where you start really getting into the lies. And now, who knows what to believe? Do you believe the president? Do you believe the chancellor? You have no idea who to believe at that moment. And this part could take 2 minutes of arguing, 5 minutes of arguing, however much fun you want to have. I don't put really a time limit on it because this is the best part of the game. If I'm a president and I'm a fascist, I want to be as liberal as possible. So you kind of have multiple avenues on how you can do that. You can say, hey, I drew a liberal and a fascist card. I gave it to the chancellor. They discarded the liberal card. You should look at them. Or you can go the truthful way where you drew 3 fascist cards and that just sucks. It's unfortunate. And if you're a liberal, it even sucks even more because you're a target. And you're not a target because you purposely became a target. You're a target because how the game kind of forced your hand, which I really think is beautiful, but also is difficult in a way because you don't really have a lot of wiggle room if that's your first draw in the beginning of the game. If it's a tie vote, the election does not happen. Presidency loses and goes to the left clockwise, and now that person will choose chancellor. The election tracker moves down one space. If that election tracker fails a vote 3 times in a row, so that one failed because it tied, the next one fails, let's say more no's, the next president chooses another chancellor, that one fails, that's 3 fails in a row, you reveal the top card of the policy deck and place it on the board immediately. It gets enacted no matter what, and then the election tracker resets. Now, let's say the election tracker goes down 2 spaces and it's 1 away from that reveal. If the president chooses a chancellor and everyone votes yes, or it goes through, that resets the election tracker. So anytime an election goes through, the election tracker gets reset. So it needs to fail 3 times in a row for that first policy deck to go up. Now that really helps fascists because again, there are more fascist cards in here. That's where you kind of work together and vote no and try to get liberals on your side to vote no as well. That's when you start feeding in the seeds of doubt. As a fascist, you don't want people to know you're a fascist. No matter who you are, you want to play as liberal as possible so people trust you, and you'll start getting the hang of that the more you play. So after the first vote, whether it's a no and the election fails, or if it's a yes and the election goes through and we get a card on the board, presidency moves to the left, clockwise. Now that person chooses who they want the chancellor to be. They cannot have the chancellor be the last president elected and the last chancellor elected. If player A was president, player A cannot be chancellor next turn. You have to wait a whole turn for them to be elected again. So it gives more people more time and more play. If the vote failed, that's okay, because they weren't elected, they were just nominated. So if the vote failed, you can still have the president be a chancellor. Then you just continue. That person elects a chancellor, you vote again. If it fails, moves to the left, election tracker moves forward. They draw 3 policy cards. This was 2 fascists and a liberal. Do you see how crazy this is? Discard 1, give 2 to the chancellor. Chancellor discards 1 and puts it back on the board. How you win the game is the first party to get all of their cards across the board. So liberal needs 5 cards on the board to win. Fascist needs 6 cards on the board to win. Once you fill the entire row of your party, you win the game. Now, there are other ways that liberals can win. They can kill Hitler. If they find out who Hitler is and they kill them, liberals automatically win. Fascists have also another way of winning. If fascists elect Hitler as chancellor, after 3 cards have been placed on the fascist track, fascists automatically win. So now let's talk about this row. Liberal doesn't have anything on here, so once you put a liberal card down, you move on, life goes on. The fascist track, however, has, at least the 9 to 10 players, has something on every single slot. If a fascist card gets placed on the first position, the president can investigate anybody's envelope and see their party membership card. Look around the room, decide who they want to see. They go, I want to look at your party membership card. And this is where the 2 cards come in handy, because there's a party membership card, which says if you're liberal or fascist, and a secret roll, which will tell you if you are Hitler, a liberal, or a fascist. So as the president looks, you only want to get your party membership card, give it to them face down, they look at it. Now if it says liberal, they know you're liberal, easy as that. If it says you're fascist, they don't know if you're Hitler or a fascist, because again, they're not looking at your secret roll. And then the president could lie, or they could tell the truth, or they could say absolutely nothing. They could say that person was a liberal when they were a fascist, that person was a fascist when they were liberal, and the card they looked at, they can even lie even further. So that's where it gets even more complex, because the lying is built on lies, on lies, on lies. It's an onion. It's an onion of lies. Onion of lies! Onion of lies! So the second roll, again, is the same thing. President can check out another membership roll. At that point, it's probably a different president, so you can either choose to look at the same membership roll the previous president looked at, and that can kind of give you a hint on whether they were lying or not. Or you could look at somebody else's. Now the third, the president gets to pick the next presidential candidate. So if there are 3 fascist cards on the board, now, again, that starts that new rule. If Hitler becomes chancellor, fascists automatically win. So once 3 fascist cards get placed on their fascist row, if Hitler becomes chancellor, elected chancellor, fascists automatically win. That's where the liberals, they start sweating. They're like, oh man, we don't know what's gonna happen. This is scary. We gotta work together. But you don't even know who you're working together with because you don't know who anything was. So the president gets to pick the next presidential candidate. They choose someone, they can choose anybody they want, even if they were a previous president before, anyone they want. Now the fourth fascist card, the president must kill someone. The president gets to kill someone. The president chooses who they want to kill. When you die, all you say is if you were Hitler or not. That's it. I kill you. Were you Hitler? No, the game continues. You don't know if they were fascist, and you don't know if they were liberal. All you know is if they were Hitler, because once Hitler dies, liberals win. So as soon as you kill someone, were you Hitler? No, game moves on. Were you Hitler? Yes, liberals win. Now, if fascists get a fifth space on their deck or on their row, the president must kill another player, and now veto power is unlocked. So veto power basically allows you to veto the policy. So president chooses their chancellor. Let's say we all agree on the election. President chooses 3 cards. 3 fascists. That sucks. I keep on doing that. Now, president, if they're liberal, they probably want to veto this because the next fascist card is going to win. They're hoping their chancellor is liberal. They discard one. They give it to the chancellor. Chancellor has to initiate. I would like to veto this. President can either agree or disagree. If the president is fascist, they're going to want to disagree for sure because the chancellor has to put down a fascist card. If they're both liberal, then that's great. They say veto, all 3 policy that you just drew get discarded, and the election tracker moves down 1. This is one of my favorite party games out there. Once you grow out of Cards Against Humanity at like age 22 or 21, because you're like, okay, I want something more complex, more strategy-based, something where is a lot more fun and maybe even lying. That's where Secret Hitler comes in because it's an amazing game full of deceit and lie now, but that's also where it kind of loses its player base. Because not a lot of people like to lie. Not a lot of people like to trick others. Now, that's where it's hard to also find 10 people to play with. Not only 10 people to play with to try and get a group of people together. That's difficult in itself, especially during the pandemic. But also 10 people that enjoy lying and want to lie to their friends and family. But that's a lying game. But if you can get 10 people to play, this game is a 10 out of 10 for me, personally, in terms of party games. Now, party genre. If you're playing 5 to 6, I would say it's maybe like an 8 or a 9, probably closer to an 8 out of 10, because it's just not as enjoyable with that many players. I would debate buying it if you only had 5 to 6 players. I would say get the free version online, download that, and use that and see if you like it, because again, getting 10 players is not an easy task. The design and art is absolutely incredible. They did such a beautiful job. I mean, you could just see the metallic shine from it. Each liberal fascist side, the cards, the thick stock, that thick cardboard, they really did a good job. That's one place where this game shines completely. They knocked it out of the park. One part where the game does kind of lack is the envelope. The envelope does get damaged easily, like the wrinkles, the tears, the stains. You want to be very careful with that because people will know, well, they'll remember what is in which envelope. And you can, switch them out of envelopes, but then you'll have to do that each game, which is kind of hard. So that's one thing where I wish these envelopes were a little bit sturdier and thicker and kind of like these policy tiles. But that's okay, you can easily buy new envelopes and just, redo that. The way the game is laid out inside is very well made as well. They have an insert for each piece that you need. Very easy to put your pieces in. Other than that, if you're looking for a game that, yes, it's about lying, about deceit, about bluffing, that maybe you have a big family or a big friend group, maybe you have a lot of roommates. You can play with 5 people. Again, it's not as great as 7 to 10, but it's still a fun game. Then this should be on the top of your list. Keep following for more. Let me know in the comments what I could have done better, what you liked about this, what games you would like to see next on how-to and reviews. Again, this is the first video I'm making, and I'm hoping this becomes something of a scientist myself. I'm hoping this becomes something fun and cool, and that we all get to hang out and get to know each other. And I'm talking to a camera. Thank you so much. Have a good one.